Hi, World History. This is day 27. This is 27b. We're talking about the Greek philosophers. We just talked about Socrates. Socrates teaches Plato. Now we're talking about Plato. Plato comes next. Plato is Socrates' most famous student. He writes a book called The Republic, which has a lot of philosophy in it. He writes about Socrates. So some of what we learn about Socrates and what he said was written by his student Plato. And some of our students in class will like this. The Republic by Plato is one of the first written works to argue for equal rights for women. Oh, we'll go back. So to kind of guide our deep learning, deep college level learning that we're going to do today about this, for both Plato and Aristotle, an important question is, what is the definition of reality? And you can write that down. Both of them are trying to answer that very deep question. What is the definition of reality? And I know that this group of 10th graders, that we are smart enough and deep enough to think about this question ourselves too. What is the definition of reality? And think about what can we observe? What is the material world? What are sensations? What do we feel? How do we know what is real? So Plato and Aristotle are both investigating kind of the same question. And they come about it, the answer, in different ways. So Plato has a fundamental distrust of the material or observable world. He knows that the material is not all that there is. He knows there's a supernatural. So there's the natural world, and then there's beyond natural, the supernatural world. And he feels that the things that we can't see are more lasting than the things that we can see. And I mean, you may have heard things like, don't judge a book by its cover, or man looks at the outward appearance of things, God looks at the heart. We know that our soul is forever. So just kind of, Plato's beginning to think about things like that. Plato's definition of knowledge has to do with kind of this deep, timeless, eternal knowledge, why things are, how things will always function, and even math formulas fall into this category. So a circle from the beginning of time through now, and for our children's time, a circle will have 360 degrees in it. And I know Mrs. Gideon tells you some things about how God gives you your hand as a math tool and everything like that, but math is discovering these principles and these laws that God has embedded into the fiber of everything that he's made. The way that circles work, and different formulas for things, constants. Pi is always the number that it is, 3.14, and then it goes on and on and on. So Plato is interested in things like that. Things always functioning that way. And then also why things are. I mean, to him, he could ask the question, does that point to a higher mind who could create these formulas? And now we'll talk about Aristotle, and then we'll have them discuss with each other. And actually, Aristotle is Plato's student. So you could call Aristotle the grand student of Socrates, like a grandchild, because it's Socrates, and then it's Plato, and then it's Aristotle. So Aristotle was taught directly by Plato, who was, of course, influenced by Socrates. So Aristotle, what are his thoughts? Does he agree with his teacher? To a certain extent is the answer to that. He wants to find truth. Aristotle. I'll give you a little hint right now and tell you that the U.S. tends to respect more an Aristotelian way of looking at the world than a Platonian way of looking at the world. Aristotle studied under Plato, and he's known as the father of biology. And perhaps the extreme respect that we have for the field of science in the modern day as a path towards truth, we partly owe some of that respect to Aristotle's respect for such pursuits. Aristotle also wrote a book. So Plato wrote The Republic, Aristotle wrote Politics. And Aristotle ends up teaching Alexander the Great, which we'll talk about his legacy next. One of Aristotle's famous quotes is, "Patience is virtue." And he also tried to teach moderation as being important. And we'll go back and kind of discuss between Plato and Aristotle in a moment. But real quickly, I want to introduce you to Alexander the Great, who is the student of Aristotle, very famous warrior in history, already having huge victories as the general when he's in his 20s, and dies at the age of 32 from malaria. So